Screen in the room. I think we have the right screen online, but somebody let me know for sure.
All set.
Thank you. And let me know if we're ready for the recording.
Yep, you're all set.
Okay. All right. Back to me. As I mentioned previously, I have the pleasure of leading the portfolio called Digital Innovation and Academic Services, and that includes many of the academic innovation, academic technology, various initiatives within the Provost office. And I feel like you hear me say this every year, I have the most fun job in SUNY because I get to do all the cool new stuff and work with all of you on the campuses, not just in the online community, but in other communities as well. So what I'm going to do this morning is share some updates from the activities within Digital Innovation and Academic Services. I'm going to try not to steal any of Dan Feinberg's thunder because I know you want to hear from him. So I'm going to stay away from that as much as possible. But there are lots of things going on that I want to be able to share with you. So this is if I can figure out how to click. So I'm going to start with the Faculty Advisory Council on Teaching and Technology. This is for those outside of SUNY. This is a SUNY-wide body of faculty and staff in representative roles around the campuses who serve in an advisory capacity to the provost on matters of teaching and learning with technology. And what I'm really pleased to be able to share is that in 23-24, there was a task group formed on artificial intelligence, optimizing AI in teaching and learning. And an incredible team of faculty and staff worked over the summer of 2023 to provide a guide for faculty coming back to campus in fall of 2023 to think about, like, how do I think about this, these AI tools that are out there, what my students are going to be doing, et cetera. So we published the first version of the guide in October. It's actually formally published in October of 2023. That team continued to work over the next year, providing webinars, professional development activities, continuing to survey the landscape. And last summer, they published an update of the guide, and the QR code is up there for those of you who wanted. And I'm going to find a way later to share the links for which I have QR codes in this presentation. We'll share them somehow, but QR code is easy if you want to just snap a picture. So we're really proud of this guide, really proud of that team of faculty and staff who worked so hard on this, and really pleased to see the number of views that it's getting online. You can also, it's available through SUNY Press, so if you wanted to actually get a hard copy, which by the way I did because I wanted it, you can purchase that online for a very low price. Okay, so for the current academic year, we have two new task groups. Every year we kind of look to what are the areas of focus for the year. So they are generative AI in action and experiential learning from curriculum to career. Generative AI in action is a follow-on to the task group that we had last year. Last year was really all about exploration, guidance, considerations. This is really about AI in action. What are we actually doing? So 3 areas of focus for this task group. The first is supporting that AI tutor project that Ram mentioned that we're going to be working on, that we are working on. So this group will be providing information, best practices, helping to survey the landscape around best practices for AI tutor solutions. There's also a focus on teaching and learning with AI technologies. So who are the faculty and campuses that are doing pilots using different tools and technologies out there with AI? And then a third group who is looking at policy considerations as campuses, as faculty are starting to establish policies. What do those look like, and what can we be sharing to help others? The second task group is experiential learning from curriculum to career. And this is, I think, what's really exciting about this task group is they're taking a project that we funded the previous year through one of our grant programs to scale and making some of the outcomes of that project available across SUNY. So looking at best practices in how we codify experiential learning activities and help students translate them to skills for the workforce. What are the frameworks for doing that? And how do we address access and equity gaps in experiential learning? So really excited about these task groups. Full charges are on the website, as well as the co-leads and the members of the task group. So if you're interested in getting involved, you can check those out. I mentioned grants. We do have a couple of academic innovation grant programs. We have the Innovative Instruction Technology grants and the Open Educational Resources grants. Across them combined, it's more than $1 million that we get to give out to campuses. Our focus for this year, similar to last year, is on artificial intelligence for teaching and learning for the IITG grants and expanding OER adoption with the OER Impact grants. I'm giving you some key dates there. We're actually in the solicitation stages right now for that project. We just had an ideation stage where we encouraged campuses to submit ideas for projects to us. We held 4 town halls where we invited those proposers to come together and help to facilitate connections between faculty and staff to think about where they could find complementary or similar expertise to the project they were thinking about. And now we will move into the proposal development stage next week. RFP site opens and proposals will be due on March 30th. And awards will be announced at the CIT conference in May. So those are our grant programs. Again, I'm really happy to be able to provide that. I did want to say a little bit about campus visits. So what the work that we do in DS so directly affects the work that you all do on the campuses that we really feel like across the DS leadership team, it's important for us to stay in touch with campuses, to know what your issues are, know what you're dealing with, and to know how the services that we're providing to you are working. Are they working? Are they not? Where do we need to evolve? So 3 of our teams embarked on campus visits over the last year. And so the Digital Learning Environment Project, our Brightspace implementation, we've been visiting campuses to see how that's going, where our campus is doing well, what's the experience of students, faculty, campus administrators, where do you still need help, what can we do to better support you. So there have been some really good outcomes from those visits, and I think Dan may touch on that a little bit more. I won't say more than that. The Office of Library and Information Services, this is the 5-year anniversary of the implementation of the Alma Primo Library Services platform. So they went out to visit campuses to see how campuses are doing, what are they, how is the platform serving them, supporting them, where do they still need help? A lot of discussions around how AI is being integrated into the platform, because that's a big question on everybody's mind. So those visits were also very helpful. Also very enlightening to see how library spaces are changing, right? No longer are libraries a place for collections of books and periodicals and resources, but they are increasingly collaboration spaces, reference spaces, ways for faculty, students, researchers to come together to advance the work that they're doing in various ways. Access to technology, we saw this during COVID, right? Students come into the library to get access to technology. So interesting to see the way spaces have evolved, and they came back with lots of really great pictures of some of the cool things in our campus libraries. And then finally, the Center for Professional Development, even though they don't report to us, they still support all of the work that we do in DS. And so they reported to us, they visited campuses as well and brought back some really good feedback on where campuses are engaging in professional development, where they need help, what else we could be doing. And so that has helpful input to all of us in the DS orgs as well. So I just want to say thank you to all the teams who went out there. Thank you to all the campuses who hosted us. We are still looking to do more campus visits. So if we haven't been to your campus and you'd like us to come, I always say just invite us. Okay. I want to say a little bit about SUNY's digital transformation project. Last year, if you were at the summit, you remember we had a panel that included Brian Digman, who's our CIO, who's leading this initiative at SUNY. And so I wanted to just share a little bit about where we are. We spent really the first year getting organized around digital transformation, getting a governance structure in place, and getting process in place for proposals to be submitted. And where we were last year at this time was we were accepting proposals to come in. Since then, we have actually identified 17 projects that have been funded. There's a QR code for the project website. And I think this may only be available to SUNY folks. You may need SUNY credentials to log in. So apologies for the non-SUNY folks if that's the case. But you'll find the list of funded projects there and high-level information on the goals of the projects. What I did want to mention is that there are several projects, I think, for this community to watch. We have a project called the Comprehensive Online Education Initiative, and that is designed to help campuses who want to grow their enrollments with online students. We have a digital backpack, which is designed to provide shared access across the system to software licenses for students in ways that help increase access for students and reduce costs for campuses. The Digital Academic Support Solutions is the suite of tools around early alerts, customer relationship management systems, data reporting and analytics. So many of you know we conducted an RFP for a suite of solutions there. We are still in the restricted period with that project, so I can't say more, but the RFP has concluded and we are continuing down the path to get contracts in place for our campuses. Ron mentioned the AI Tutor Project. That has funding from DTP as well. And what that means is that we're able to bring a formal technical delivery project management team to the table to augment what we normally would do in a fact task group kind of way. So our goal is to implement an AI-based tutor across the system that can be available for faculty to implement in their class in the way that they would like to. And then finally, the data management platform. We talk a lot about data in this community, and you're all probably, if you're in SUNY, you're familiar with our CIRRUS process, you're familiar with IPEDS data. And so what we have been saying for probably as long as I've been in SUNY is that our data infrastructure needs improvement. And so the data management platform is really an opportunity, again, with DTP funding to take a fresh look at what do we need, what should that look like, how do we implement that in ways that help improve comprehensive access to comprehensive data, accuracy, availability of data for both campuses and system without we spend so much time and effort now collecting data, aggregating data, doing data analysis. How can we do that easier and in ways that save time and effort for campuses and for us at systems? So I'm really excited about that project. None of these projects are going to happen overnight. Many of them have procurement elements to them. So I'm not going to talk in details about that. But if anybody would like more information, you can contact me, and I'm happy to connect you with the individuals who are leading the individual projects. Okay, how am I doing on time-wise? Okay, so I know we're going to have a whole afternoon on digital accessibility with Kelly Herman, who is here. Kelly, thank you for being here. I want to talk about what's happening in digital accessibility at SUNY. This has been a huge area of focus for us for a couple of years now, really since many years, but really renewed effort in the last few years with the implementation of the DLE, which has spurred our thinking that we have to come back to this. Add to that what's happening, with Title II changes to the ADA, and there's a lot to do. So this first slide is just a reminder that we have SUNY Board of Trustees policy around EIT accessibility that was put in place in 2019. And so I'm giving you the QR code with a link to that policy. If you're in SUNY and you are not familiar with it, you should be familiar with it. That includes, that policy refers to a final report and recommendations that were made by the EIT Accessibility Committee at the time. We have actually done a review of those recommendations, and there are new updates to that, but the document is there. And then finally, our policy references 5 areas of standards. And so those 5 areas are outlined at the QR code that's on the left there. Important for you to know what those are, and we've got implementation guidance for those 5 areas. Okay, so that's SUNY landscape. You should know about that and you should be aware of that. If you've been to any meetings that we've been in or when we've been talking about this, you know that we've been trying to get the word out about the Title II updates to the Americans with Disabilities Act. And just to give you a little bit of history, this actually goes back to a Dear Colleague letter that came out in 2023. As a result of that, updates were announced in April of 2024 to the Title II section of the ADA. That's what the QR code links you to. There's also a fact sheet that outlines, I think, in a pretty good way what those are. Maybe Kelly's going to talk a little bit more about this later. A little bit, yeah. What I'll just say is that it really represents a paradigm shift. And so we have been trying to get this word out to our campuses that this rule represents a shift from accommodations and remediation of documents, websites, et cetera, to design for inclusivity up front. And so what we want to make sure of is that, when our students, our faculty, our staff, anybody encounters, whether it's a classroom, a document, a website, right, that they're able to access that and we don't have to make accommodations or do remediation. This applies to everybody covered under Title II, and for us, that's our faculty, staff, students, and public visitors to our campuses. So when you think about your public websites, when you think about your athletics website, when you think about your program websites, right? All of those are available. There are 2 deadlines associated with this change. For most SUNY campuses, that deadline is going to be April 2026. Smaller community colleges who have a small service area may get another year to April 2027. If you have questions about that, let me know and I can direct you to a resource to help you with that. Several years ago, SUNY launched an initiative called Universal Design for Learning. This is really about creating a more inclusive learning environment for students with disabilities by eliminating barriers to learning during the design process, right in line with what we Title II is saying we should be doing, right? So this concept is not new, right? It's something we've been talking about in this space and other spaces. And so in 2021, we launched the Universal Design for Learning project. It is funded through the Office of Student Success. Includes courses, workshops through the SUNY CPD. We included UDL in the Bright Space training that we have for faculty. And I'm really excited to be able to share that, and this is really a partnership between the Office of Student Success, the SUNY Center for Professional Development, our office, others I know I'm forgetting, it's called the SUNY Inclusion Quest webinar series. The first 3 webinars are announced and are out there. First one is navigating those new ADA Title II requirements. That's going to be done by former SUNY colleague Mark Greenfield, who you may know was the EIT Accessibility Officer at UB. We are also doing a webinar on SUNY's partnership with DeCue University, which is the premier professional development organization for digital accessibility. And so CPD is doing that in conjunction with DeCue. And then the third one is there's a whole procurement element of digital accessibility that we have to be paying attention to. So Mark is going to come back and do another webinar on what procurement, anybody who's in that procurement workflow needs to know about how you ensure compliance with digital accessibility for any of the tools that you're procuring. So more webinars will be added to the series at that link that's at the QR code, and we just encourage you to check that out, stay in touch with that, and share that with others on your campus who need to know. Really excited to be able to share also through a partnership with the Office of Student Success that we launched the first cohort of SUNY Accessibility Advocates and Allies Faculty Fellowship. So this was 11 faculty who were selected through a really competitive application process to serve as faculty champions on their campuses to cultivate a culture of access for people with disabilities. So they will be working at the campus level with a team across their campus to get a plan in place for how do we actually support faculty in creating a culture of access. We know that faculty pay more attention to their peers than they do to any of us. And so we thought faculty champions would be an important way to help get the message to faculty and to understand what faculty really need. So if you, so the Faculty Fellows website is there with the information about the program. There also was a press release. There are bios for all of the 11 fellows who were part of the first cohort. If you have one of those fellows on your campus, SUNY folks, please reach out to them, ask them how you can help, engage them in the work that you're doing so they can be part of the work that you're doing and really to support that building culture of access for people with disabilities. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about accessibility. There's a lot going on. Oh, I should say one more thing that I don't have a slide for. We are about to hire, I'm very excited, an assistant provost for electronic and information technology across the system. So we will once again have an EIT accessibility officer at the system level. Stay tuned for that announcement. Probably, I'm hoping in the next month or so. Stay tuned. Okay. I did want to just mention that we have a few other conferences coming up this spring that folks in this community might be aware of, and I have URLs for most of them. The first is the Digital Learning Conference, which is happening, got to do my math, 2 weeks at Binghamton University. So registration is still open for that if you're interested, and information about the conference is there. We have our Conference on Instruction and Technology, which is our largest conference of SUNY faculty and staff involved in teaching and learning with technology. The SUNY Technology Conference, which is more of the IT staffs on the campuses, but also includes a track for educational technology. And we, the DS orgs, are represented there to provide updates on the work that we're doing. And then the SUNY Library Association has their conference in June as well. Want to make sure everybody is aware of them. Hope to see you at some of those events and encourage you to participate. Okay, I'm going to end with just an update on SUNY's innovative instruction ecosystem. You've heard me talk about this before or at CIT. Last year, across the DS leadership team, we brought in an outside consultant to help us think about what we could or should be doing in the innovative instruction ecosystem. And so this is a slightly different graphic than I've shared before, but really talking about that we have forces driving change that are affecting what we do at SUNY. Some of that is so external forces outside of SUNY, pedagogical trends and challenges, technology innovations. Internal forces are things happening inside of SUNY. And then you come into the ecosystem, and we get the ability to make investments in people, time, effort, funding, priorities. Those enable us to support the innovation activities that we have, things like seed grants, grants and funding for scaling innovation, and then task forces or working groups that we put together. When we see something that we want to take to scale, we have levers to do that with university-wide strategy, university-wide policy and standards, university-wide infrastructure, and our communities of practice. And then what we're going for are impacting outcomes in those 4 pillars that are the priorities for the chancellor. What we are increasingly trying to do is think about the return on that investment. What is our impact, and how do we increase the ROI so that we can continue to invest? And then our foundation for innovation are really support of all the U-wide organizations that we work with to provide things like grants, platforms, change leadership support, et cetera. So that's our ecosystem. Quick review. So the consultant that we worked with did lots of interviews with us, talked with folks outside, looked at national trends and exemplars, and identified what they saw as strengths of our ecosystem and where are opportunities that we have. So in terms of strengths, I won't talk through all of them, but I just wanted to call out a few. We have had successes in this area. When we talk about OER and how that has gone through our ecosystem, that's a model that we can emulate and think about as we go forward. Our infrastructure is a tremendous asset to us. The things that we already have in place to support and promote innovation is greater than what some of our peers and competitors have. Our faculty base. I've always said that what distinguishes any institution or system from another is our faculty, right? And so we have a tremendous faculty base that gives us a large capacity for innovation. And when we put something out like innovative instruction technology grants or other opportunities, faculty come to the table ready to engage and innovate with us, which is so fun and exciting. Opportunity areas, I think financial variability is a big one across the campuses. A lot of campuses are dealing with that right now. Even though we're seeing enrollment trends start to turn, it's going to be a few more years before that impact is felt in campus budgets. What else can I call out here? Limited philanthropy. And what I would say here is this is really our own philanthropic engagement around this area of work. SUNY does lots of work with philanthropic grants. Marianne is a former executive director of the Impact Foundation. Lots of work happening there. We haven't really tapped into that or taken advantage of that. So definitely some opportunities for us to consider. Things we'll talk about, Julie, as we get going. But I wanted to just throw out some thoughts of where I think we can focus for the coming year. I think there's an opportunity for us to assess our current structures, our events, and various roles that we have at the system level and across the system. Two, bring more intentionality to our engagement with stakeholders. We have lots of stakeholder engagements, but when the consultant was working with us, they asked us, what do we do at conferences? How do we think about our participation in those conferences? How do we leverage them for the priorities that we have? So it really got us thinking about how do we be more proactive and intentional about that. You've heard me say for a couple of years now, we want to think about how we connect the various activities in our ecosystem to help build on each other. So how does something that started as an IITG grant go to a grant at scale? Is there a task force that would help bring some policy considerations to that? You know, that's a lot of what happened with OER that I think we can build on. And I think, again, we want to promote more campus collaborations. I am so gratified to see in these town halls that we're having for the IITG grants and the OER impact grants, light bulbs going off for faculty who are finding colleagues across the system who bring a complementary or additive perspective to a project they're working on and thanking us for helping to facilitate those connections. That's just so fun. We want to think about stakeholder engagement to determine the priorities for upcoming investments. So we're going to be coming out to you, trying to understand what campus needs are, what your challenges are, and where investments that we make at the system level can help you. I also want to think about the role of the Innovative Instruction Research Council, which typically has been focused on the IITG grants, to have a broader role in shaping our, our innovation agenda. I think we can identify opportunities for external funding with a focus on how we assess and demonstrate impact. We have a couple of projects going on right now. One with with MDRC and Axum to look at our success coaching model, which is really exciting. And they're bringing expertise and, quite frankly, people power to the table that we just don't have to do this kind of assessment well. And you're going to hear more about that project later. I'd like to do more of that. And then evolving our data infrastructure so that we can improve our reporting internally, but that's also going to be a big way that we're able to tell our story. And so I think that's an area of opportunity for us. So I'm going to stop there. Dan, right at 11 o'clock. I'm done. I'm going to turn it over to Dan now. And I'm going to be around all 3 days. So if anybody has questions for me, happy to talk with you, and I'll turn it over to Dan.
Excellent talk. All right.
Hey, Dan, this is Chris. I'm the voice of the chat. Are we going to wait to do questions for Kim after you speak?
While I'm getting set up, if you want to jump in with a couple, I think that's fine.
Well, there was just a request that I have the deck so that folks could get the links because the QR codes weren't working for everyone. And then there was a provocative question about has Dodge cut any funding that we know of related to the things that Kim was talking about?
So I will definitely share out the links. So I'll probably just do a link dump in the chat, but then I'll also include them in the slides when we post the slides. Have we seen any impact of DOGE funding? I'm looking at Julie to see if you want to comment at all on that. Hang on, I'm going to bring the mic.
The grants that go through the Research Foundation, we're assessing potential cuts there. So I would say work through your campuses on those particular issues. For other Doge facing efforts and the Dear Colleague letter, we're staying the course on things like DEISJ initiatives and others, while things work their way through the judicial system. So nothing has really changed from our SUNY perspective on those types of efforts.
Thanks, Julie. And if the question, was, are we seeing any impact in the things that we're doing in DS? So far, we're staying the course. Yeah, so stay tuned.
Can you guys see online the SUNY online education footprint on the screen?
No, the camera just needs to be pulled back a little bit, I think.
Okay, so hang on while we still get that up. Hang on.
Did that work?
Yep, now we can see it.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Very good. Thank you very much. Good morning, friends. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Dan Feinberg. I am Interim Director of SUNY Online. I was going to talk a little bit about, I don't have any QR codes, but I do have a bunch of numbers that I wanted to dig into a little bit to talk about where SUNY is with online learning and who's doing what, and then a little bit about our organization. And I have promised Alex that I will do my best to stop on time. So I'm going to jump into this. As the Provost actually mentioned earlier today, we do have about 950 online programs. We are waiting for the big balloon drop when number 1,000 rolls out. Should be at that point next year. It's, the numbers are impressive, right? We've been doing this since 1994 when I think it started with, 4 courses, 56 students, and we're up to about 150,000 students taking online courses in fall of 23. Now, I have been waiting and waiting and waiting to get fall 24 data. And there are 4 campuses. And Erica Blair, I'm looking at you as one of those campuses. Not to call anybody out. I've been waiting and waiting for the fall 24 data. There are 4 campuses who should be putting in the data. I will update this and get this out to everybody as soon as possible. But the latest data that I have full numbers for is fall 23. And you can see, we called it there was obviously an inversion back in 2020, the number, but the number, the red in this case is fully online students. The blue is face-to-face students, and the orange is some, but not all online, right? So we've got about 50,000 fully online students, about 150,000 total students taking at least one online course, right? So this number has been growing steadily, and I am excited about seeing where we wind up next. Another way to look at this is percentage of students. My title is covered in the room, but this is percentage of students who are taking at least one online course, right? The green is the percentage of students who take at least one online course. The blue is the percentage of students who are face-to-face, not online, right? And you can see there has been an inversion. We had a nice trend line for a long time. I'm really anxious to see where this turns out. We've actually gone down as a percentage the last couple of years as we've bounced back from COVID, but I expect that it'll go up again this year. If we put on a little trend line there on the bottom, you can see it's actually about a 12.5 percentage point gain in the prevalence of online learning, probably due to COVID, right? So we accelerated the acceptance of online learning by years due to that pivot to online. I think that's fair to say. The other thing I wanted to share with you guys is this. This graph is NC SARA data, which I know many of you are familiar with. Number of New York students enrolled in exclusively online courses out of state, right? And this, to me, presents an opportunity, right? There are literally well over 100,000 New Yorkers doing fully online courses between SUNY, between CUNY, between private schools, between out-of-state schools. They're looking for affordable, high-quality online education, right? And SUNY is really well positioned to deliver that. I expect that these numbers, our online numbers are growing at the same time that these numbers are growing, which tells me that there's just an appetite for online learning within the state. And, we monitor this closely. I expect that we'll continue to kick into it. Okay. I don't see it. I don't see it. That's okay. I'll tell you what you all are missing. Now, and I know I'm preaching to the choir on a lot of this stuff. What do our online students look like? Well, with numbers that we have and years that we've been doing this, we have pretty good ideas of online student demographics. This is not a surprise to anyone, right? That compared to our face-to-face students, our fully online students are considerably older, right? The graph on the left is our exclusively online students. The graph on the right is our face-to-face students. Very traditional sort of layout on the right. While on the left, it is clearly much older. Same thing with the percentage of students who are full-time, part-time, right? Many, many more, much higher percentage of students part-time in the fully online space than in the face-to-face space. They're working adults. We understand that. As a whole, I'm not sure all of this was known, but compared to face-to-face students, our online students are more likely to receive Pell Grants, more likely to be underrepresented minorities, more likely to be female, transfer students, first-generation students, a ton of different factors, right? Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is for a couple of things. One, our population of online students is different demographically than our population of face-to-face students. And that's important to remember. I think the very next section, I'm looking at Susan, I think the very next session has to do with coaching for online students. And, that's super relevant, right? How we pay attention to those students, how we care for those students, how we make sure they succeed, right? This aligns really well with a lot of what we're trying to do around SUNY. So I'm proud that we're able to, reach these students that aren't always able to be accommodated in our traditional classrooms. Now, that's a bit of an eye test, but that's okay. I'll tell you what it says. All right. So this is looking at, like I said, we have 950 or so online programs, and this is them broken out by zip code, right? The darker blue ones are where we have a lot of online programs. The lighter blue ones and that list on the right is where we actually don't have any online programs in those zip codes, right? So we've got a lot of business, we've got a lot of education, healthcare, allied health, things like that, but there's still blue water, right? There's still opportunities out there where there aren't a ton of online programs, and there may be students who are wanting to take online classes, right? I will share this information afterwards with everybody, so you can do this. And I should say all of this information, or almost all this information, some of this is exclusive, but almost all this information is available on the dashboards that Victoria has been putting together for us on the SUNY online site. So you can look for that there. We still in SUNY do a lot of online education at the associate's level, right? If I broke out the, this is a breakdown by degree level of all of our 950 something online programs. You can see the large majority of them, more than half of them, are associate's degrees or undergraduate certificates, right? Not a surprise. We understand that online learning is a lot about access, which aligns really well with our community colleges, right? We have considerably fewer baccalaureate degrees. That includes some completion degrees, right? We have master's degrees and a handful of doctoral degrees. But there might be opportunity there. We're always looking to connect that to say, all right, where are there opportunities for more students, right? This tells somewhat of a similar story. I told you I had a lot of numbers, but that's okay. I like data. This is looking at our course sections by online status. The community colleges are on the far right, and the doctoral is on the far left, with the comprehensive and technology colleges in between. The point I'm trying to make here is system-wide, more than a quarter of our community college sections are online sections, right? And if you include hybrid courses, and high flex courses, more than a third of our course sections at community colleges have an online component, which is really significant, right? There are campuses out there where that number is way north of a third, right? Where it's pushing, 40%, 50% of online of sections in the school are online. We do a little bit less comparatively at the doctoral level, at the doctoral degree granting institutions. A lot of that is at the master's level. Not a surprise, but it has really taken root across the system and is growing in all of these. Then the final numbers I want to show you is just a breakdown of what we're talking about when we mean online learning. We're still largely talking about asynchronous online courses, right? The large majority of our courses with an online component are asynchronous online courses. We do have hybrid courses, obviously. We have synchronous online courses, a little bit of high flex growing, but still a little bit of high flex, but still the majority of what we're doing is asynchronous online. Okay. Now, where are we with SUNY Online today? All right, I'm going to make a sharp shift. That's a little bit about the online education footprint. Now I want to talk a little bit about what we do in SUNY Online to support campuses, right? Well, SUNY Online, as you know, we support campuses in their online learning initiatives, right? And we do this through all the things that show up here on this screen. And I put this slide there because I think we can map everything here in our mission directly to the sessions that we have this week, right? We've put together I mean largely Alex Pickett, have put together a great agenda, right? And it's tied to exemplary models for the online program development and campus services. It's tied to the high quality, cost-effective services we offer, the advocacy work we do, and then the research and innovation we do, right? Where we're able to reach out and support everyone. I'm going to go through some of our functional areas quickly. I would really encourage you, if you are interested and to learn a more complete picture, to pick up our impact report. There were copies of it available at the front table with Nancy. I have copies. There are lots of copies. If you would like a copy of the impact report, please, it goes into much greater depth about all of this stuff. So I always start with campus partnerships. It's near and dear to my heart. I did that for many years before Maureen Kinney has taken that over and run with it, doing a much better job. It's been a busy couple years in campus partnerships, primarily with SUNY Online Plus recertification, right? If you're familiar with SUNY Online Plus, it is our quality assurance. It is how we do quality assurance at the program level. We're very proud to say 46 additional programs and certificates, degrees, programs, have received SUNY Online Plus designation in the past year. At a handful of colleges, there's a number of colleges that have recertified. There's 9 more that are in the process. I think we are like days away with Alfred and super close with Buffalo State, and excited about adding more to this list. So thank you for those who have participated in that. And we're really proud of the quality of the online offerings across SUNY. We also have focused on the institutional readiness process, right? Which is how we do quality assurance at the institution level, right? To make sure, and we totally recognize that people have been doing online learning for 25 years in SUNY, and institutional readiness is just everything from soup to nuts about, are you prepared for online learning? Do you have everything in place that you need to offer high quality online program to your students, right? More than 40 different campuses have gone through this process at this point. We have another 3 that are doing it right now. Not their first time going through this for several of these. For several of these campuses, they've decided to do it a second time. Maybe there's a change in leadership. Maybe it's been 15 years since they did it the first time, but we're really pleased that we're able to work with campuses. And when I say we, it really is a peer-led initiative where we have people from other campuses leading the campus through this process. It's not us coming in to say, this is how you need to do everything. It's talking to you about where you are with your online learning and what needs to be in place to really take it to the next level. So that's been a big success. And then a big success has also been the distance learning leaders onboarding program, right? Where, we have certainly 50, 60 different distance learning leaders throughout the system. We have hundreds of instructional designers. And, what we're able to do, and we largely as Maureen, what we're able to do is sort of orient you to the different communities of practice that we have, the different offerings that we have. This will funnel into a brand new distance learning leader certificate program that is being offered at the CPD. I think Danielle and Ryan, you two are involved in that. We're looking forward to that going live. But if you are at all interested in participating in these programs, please reach out and we are happy to connect with you. Right? We've worked with, I think, 9 campuses just since this fall in the distance learning leaders orientation program. So it's been great. Now, student supports. This is something that we're going to talk about a lot in the next couple days, including, I think, the next session. And then we have a student panel and we have a report on MDRC.
Let me tell you a story of labor.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the designer for department stores.
Sorry. I'm a professional. So in the student supports area, we are really pleased that there
All
are.
of the fake cats.
So maybe Jen, if you could help, or someone could help mute some of the participants, that would be appreciated. That's okay. They're excited. We have 2 brand new certificate programs in the student supports area, one focused on online student support certificate and one coaching strategies for higher ed. We're going to get a lot more into this coming up. There's multiple communities of practice that we maintain focused on the early alerts system and use of those tools, focused on the online student supports collaborative, right? And you're going to be hearing a lot more over the next few months about the SAUCI, which is our SUNY Online Student Success Inventory. This is a way where students can assess their readiness for online learning. We are looking at updating it, revamping it, improving it, making it great again. Too soon. That's okay. But we are working on updating the SAUCI and making it into making it appropriate for more audiences. So you'll be hearing a lot more about that over the next few months. In online teaching, one of the models that we talk about a lot is Oscar, right? And Oscar at this point, it's openly licensed, so we lose track. We don't know exactly how many institutions across the country, across the world are using it, but we can see thousands. We can see that it's accessed and downloaded in all 50 states, in literally thousands of institutions across, dozens and dozens of countries. There's a lot of work that goes into the care and feeding of something like Oscar, maintaining it. The website is constantly updated. We rolled out new standards this year related to COIL, right? I'm very proud to say that we were awarded a WCET WOW Award for that effort. The COIL Oscar standards, that was a huge lift. We also really rolled out a new effort on Oscar certification. I think you're going to hear more about it over the next couple of days, but it's a way where campuses, faculty, instructional designers are able to certify that their use of Oscar and then spread it on to new faculty development. So looking very much forward to that. My colleague Alexandra Pickett leads this area. She's also been working on DEISJ annotations for Oscar and online learning as well, which is timely in today's world. So looking forward to seeing that. I know that effort has been ongoing for a little while, and hopefully looking forward to the fruits of that. Now, related to this, we do a ton of work on training and professional development. Jamie Heron leads this area. We have literally thousands of faculty earning certificates for different trainings that we're able to offer through partnership through the CPD. I'm really proud of the Otter work that we do. Otter stands for online teaching with technology, right? Educational resources, exactly. In the last year, each year it's got a different theme. So you can literally take it each year and learn different things. I believe a couple years ago, it was the Flex edition. Last year, it was the Student Voices edition. We were able to get a number of students involved, talking directly about what they like, what they don't like, what their challenges are in online learning. And this coming year, it's the Accessibility edition, right? So very timely, something to look forward to, where we will talk a lot about online course development framed in the area of accessibility. I mentioned the ID and DL leaders, certificates, and the inclusion quest, which Kim alluded to. There's going to be a lot of programming around this. It's going to be a big effort to get our courses, our materials accessible, and Jamie's doing a ton of work to be a part of that. Last couple areas. I know I've got like 5 minutes left, Alex. Great. I wanted to touch on the help desk quickly. Many of you are familiar with the help desk. You've been using it for years. I think we have over 40 something campuses that we support at this point. Mike and Lori and the entire team. I put up here a couple more numbers. These are looking at our 2024 stats. We had close to 37,000 contacts that our help desk handled, right? And that is, individual tickets. Many of those tickets revolve several back and forths with faculty members, with students. So well over 50,000 contacts with campuses. We've seen this trend continue over the last couple of years where faculty, it's becoming more and more of a faculty help desk, right? Where we deal with tons of faculty. We see that at the beginning of the semesters. We see that at the end of the semester. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, August of 24 was one of our busiest months since the pandemic, right? So the help desk is as busy as ever, able to offer, high quality, 104 hours a week of personalized service. So very proud of that. I put up here the names of all the our analysts on the help desk and the names of our application services staff who really do the hard work of helping students, helping faculty to get their courses up to shape and working well. So lots of appreciation to them for all their hard work. Last couple of things, the apps team, I could do another 30 minutes on the amount of work that has gone into the implementation project. We're pleased to say we are at the end of it, right? We have just about officially closed the implementation of 57 institutions into the Brightspace environment, which was a tremendous effort. We are still meeting every couple of weeks with the DLE governance. There have been 8 to 10 different proposals that have been pushed forward. Campuses have been able to vote on what proposals they would like to see and what changes they want to see in the shared DLE environment. That's been successful so far. We have spent a ton of effort on the code development, delegated administration project, right? This has been an 18-month effort where we partner with D2L to essentially provide more administrative rights to users and instructional designers and distance learning leaders in the system, to DLE admins in the system. We've been able to roll out improvements on courses, user management, impersonation, roles and permissions. There's new features rolling out every semester, right? And I think there is another 3 semesters worth of improvements that we are excited about rolling out. So that has been a big success for us. 3 semesters, correct, Harry? All right, 2 or 3 semesters. It's going to be good. And finally, two other things that I wanted to mention on this real quick that were big efforts was the global and campus law rollout, right? We've now rolled out dozens of campus level laws and, through a ton of work from the Fact 2 group, from campus representatives, from Alex, from Aaron Maney, from a number of other people, we've been able to roll out and successfully launch the global law that is accepting admissions now, right? So please, if you have items you want to share, take advantage of that. And if you would like a law on your campus, reach out to Steve or Harry and the team, and they can help get you set up with that as well. So the last thing I wanted to mention on this slide, really were the campus visits. It's been a joy to get out to campuses. We did the whole implementation without visiting a single campus, which is hard to believe. And we have been fortunate enough to make it out to several dozen campuses over the past year. We're looking forward to, now that the snow is stopping, we're looking forward to making it out to more campuses. If we have not, we bring moose with us. We bring stuffed moose. So we come bearing gifts. If you would like to talk about what's going on with this, I would love to be able to show up on your campus as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Lots coming up. We talked about this. I apologize for the puns. That's Harry Cargile's fault. I had nothing to do with the puns. Lots of code development efforts and I know I'm running out of time, right, Alex? Oh, perfect. Perfect timing. I did want to mention the hard work that Victoria's been doing in our impact analysis area, producing dashboards and measuring some of the impact of what we've done. There's a new dashboard that is super useful out there on third-party tools. For instance, there's dozens of dashboards out there, but I highlighted the one on third-party tools where if you have a certain tool and you want to see who's using it, you can search for that and it'll show you all the campuses that are using a specific tool, right? So I'm curious in rolling out read, write, speaker, who else is on there, that sort of thing. And please, like the last couple slides here, please, please, please reach out if you have any questions, right? We do a ton of outreach activities. We have a ton of communities of practice that we maintain. We do websites, publications, webinars. Next week is Open Ed Week, which is, Tony is excited about it. Everyone's excited about, yeah, very exciting. Everyone's excited about Open Ed Week next week. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we are happy to connect you and teach more, help you more. Any questions? Great. John. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, just very quickly, this isn't a question, it's a couple comments. Number one, I'm so happy to hear that Saucy is going through some improvements. I'm spread pretty thin at Plattsburgh, but I'd be happy to help with that however possible.
That's great.
I've been using it in my training for faculty, just so they can see what we expect from our online students. So I find that very valuable. Also, Oscar, fantastic service.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's really the root of everything that we teach on campus. If we can point back to something in the Oscar rubric, we know we're doing a good job. So for anybody new here that hasn't experienced these two things, I will say everything that these folks deliver is worth your time.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that very much.
Did not pay him to say that. All right. Any other questions, either from the virtual audience or from our physical room here for Dan?
Everything online is kind of taking care of itself. So I think we're good.
Thank you, Chris.
Great.
Lots of kudos for you guys from Megan Pereira. She's your cheerleader, apparently.
Perfect.
Hey, all you guys, Victoria, Dan.
All right, so we're going to take just a quick break so that we can stop the recording, start it up again, get the slides up. And we're having the panel on student success, student coaching with Susan Warner and their panel. So panel.